Adequate notices of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-6, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 12, 2018, and revised via email on February 1st, 2018.
Thanks, Katie. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Miller is absent. Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Here.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Here.
Committeeman D'Elia?
Here. Thank you. Oh, please rise for salute to the flag. Mr. Ryan, why don't you lead us today?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Board of Health meeting for February 8th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 8th, 2017? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Wait. Okay,
Give
so
it back.
Ackerman and D'Elia, right?
I'll open the meeting to the public. Anybody wish to be heard?
Yes. Any instructions how it should start? No?
Name and address, as usual.
Shlomo Klein. I have just a question about how this Board of Health, how the board, why it's only the committee guys being on the board versus having a separate board and having people being on the Board of Health. Because I see in Lakewood there's a lot of type of boards. There's a planning board that it's hard to get members. There's a rent control board that got demolished, even you have people wanting to be on that. Then you have a MUA that I was there this week. It was such a close-knit family over there. I wish I would have been in that family. People are so close over there.
You're welcome anytime.
What?
You're always
No. I was like an outsider coming into that family environment. It was so close, you felt it. I know that Bob Singer was claiming is that it's great to have a board that they feel like family. But I greatly disagree with him, what I'm saying? But he has his opinion, I have mine. My question is why this board is not like, it just looks like, the way it looks to me is that you have certain boards that you have to have, and you don't want to put in other people on the board, you will just combine it, you're the committee, you're this board, you're the, everything is you. Technically you can't have it, you could be the planning board, you could be the zoning board. But it seems like this is the next board that you have to have, and you just didn't want to appoint people, and you just kept it as the committee to make sure that you have your 2 minutes that you could just stamp off that you had a meeting.
It's in the bylaws. It's in the ordinance. It tells us who has to be members of the Board of Health. And it says Township Committee.
In the past, there were outside members along with the committee. It was difficult to have people come to a board because, as you can see by the agenda, there's very little that we have to address. Occasionally, if there's a public health emergency, we may get involved, something that can be brought before the board, but most people felt that there wasn't enough going on to make it worth their while to come to the meeting. So we made the decision probably 6 or 8 years ago that we would name the Township Committee as the only members of the board, and that's where we're at. So there's no attempt to keep people off the board. I've got tons of boards in town that I'm desperate to find people for, so maybe we'll start to advertise those a little bit.
If you will advertise, you will get a lot of people. The problem is you don't advertise.
No. So
That
that's
was
the
one of the
reason.
complaints that people were making, that you're looking for board members, but if you would have advertised an application process that people could apply, you would have gotten plenty of people. It wouldn't have, I'm sorry if I'm going, it wouldn't have been people that are close to Bob Singer. It wouldn't have been people that are close to Justin Flansbaum. It wouldn't be people that are close to certain people. It would have been regular John Does in township that would have said this, listen, I have this credential, maybe put me on these boards, and it would have been a great thing to have people from the township, not only the old-timers friends.
Point taken. Thanks. Anybody else? See, nobody will close the public portion. There's no consent agenda, no correspondence. Any committee members' comments? And move to adjourn.
So made.
Second. All right, we're adjourned from that. Let's go with the conference meeting, or the workshop meeting.
Again, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 12, 2018, and revised via email on February 1st, 2018.
Thanks, Katie. Roll call, please.
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Miller is absent. Committeeman Lichtenstein?
Here.
Committeeman Ackerman?
Here.
Committeeman Delia?
Here. Thanks, Mayor. I'll turn it over to you.
It's number 2 on the workshop discussion, A.
Mayor?
Yes, so Mayor, at your request and working with the other members of the Township Committee, Mazer Construction has been consulting with the town and all of us regarding the traffic improvements that are needed in town. They aggressively went out to the public. There were some committee meetings, various committee members, township committee members involved in making, the Mazer study go through, and I think they've come to, I can't say a conclusion, there's always some ongoing stuff, so, but they gave us a little bit of a roadmap, I'll call it that. Now, as you know, we're traversed by municipal roads, county roads, and state roads, and I had the opportunity to be at the county a couple of times, meet with Freeholder, you were with me, Mayor, once or twice, meet with their road department, their engineering department, and discuss what they were gonna do. So I thought that perhaps we could take a few minutes and the two entities can work together, in other words, the municipality and the county, and could sort of lay out for us what their plan is going ahead, and so that the committee members, township committee members, can see if there's anything that's missing that they think is important, if there's anything that's stated that we'd like to see expedited, if there's something we want to reprioritize, and just have a feel for what's coming, because, we all hear bits and pieces of what goes on, but I think when we see it all together in one big page, we're gonna see there's a lot of improvements that are all coming together.
Okay.
So that was why we did this, and I asked Mazer to sort of, to run the production with the county, but to take lead on it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I haven't been here for a few weeks, and I'm glad to be back. Let me give you some.
Just to keep things formal, name and address for the record. So.
Yeah, Maurice Rachet, and the address is 1000 Waterview Drive, Hamilton, New Jersey. Thank you. So let me distribute copies of the presentation and a spreadsheet that I have also prepared for tonight that has a compilation of all of the improvements that are on the books.
Could I have one?
And I have a couple left.
Thank you.
Okay, there's one more. Actually, I do have a couple more. What I did, I printed copies with larger fonts. If someone is having a hard time reading what I gave you, let me know. I'll give you a larger print.
What is this one different?
They're the same, but let me check with the mayor. Is it okay to distribute this to anyone? Or?
Yes, public.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
we'll be discussing it in the meeting, that's fine.
Thank you.
You got a copy of the spreadsheet? Yes. Thank you.
I have one more of those from the Lichtenstein.
Yeah, more of what? Yeah, okay. So this is a 20-slide presentation. It should not take more than 10 minutes. Obviously, if there are questions, it'll be over 10 minutes. But I'm gonna try to focus on only the necessary and not waste your time tonight. This has really a compilation of everything we did so far, but more importantly, a compilation of what the county is doing and what we think the state also may be doing. So it includes, it's an umbrella that covers all the agencies or jurisdictions involved. This is just an overview and to remind the the board or mayor and council or mayor and committeemen that to get to this point, we worked with the community. We had 16 meetings, by the way, when we did the study with a variety of organizations within Lakewood to gather information. And after the study was complete, we kept doing work. We kept providing the township with reports on what needs to be done, updates, and also we coordinated with RNV, Ocean County, and Stantec, so we can come up with a comprehensive picture of what the township needs long-term and short-term as well. Also, we coordinated with the Lakewood Transportation Improvement Study, or we took that into consideration, the TID study, and the Ocean County study that was commissioned by the county and is being done by Stantec. So all of that information is right here before your eyes. Before I start, the reason I chose to give you this is that everybody wants to know about the traffic signals, what's happening to them, where are being installed. By the way, excuse my back, I'm not 360, so. And so this gives you a quick overview of where we are and what's happening in the future. As we speak, these are the 5 signals that are being built on Pine, 2 on Oak, Clifton, and 1 on Forest. So that's under construction. These are the signals that are proposed to be looked into and constructed in the future. 1 on Park and 7 and 1 on Park and 4th. These are the list that we got from the county. I believe this is already on the county schedule. And this, we called it wish list. The reason we call it a wish list is that that's what we want. I believe the county is in agreement with us on the need for these improvements, but it's under state jurisdiction, so that's a different path, and we have to address it a little bit differently than the other jurisdictions. So what's ongoing in 2018, now we're moving into the more general category in 2018. In addition to the 5 signals, we also have a capital program. I believe RNV is working on that to do sidewalk improvements at 29 locations. And I believe that also includes ADA accessibility and other improvement as well, right, Jeff?
Yes, where we're doing sidewalks.
Okay, yes. And in addition to that, we're working on the Vine Street extension. Right now it's with NJDEP. We submitted 3 IP. IP stands for individual permit. We got feedback from them. The feedback has been very good, by the way, from the NJDPE to us, so we're feeling good about that project. And the Vermont Avenue extension, which I believe the construction was kicked off back in November, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yep. And moving forward into 2019, and all of that is township driven and under township jurisdiction for the most part. We're looking to convert 4 to 6 intersections. I apologize for missing the S, from one-way stop to a 4-way stop. It's all in my report, so we identify the intersections. We need to take a quick look at them and make a decision. Striping and ADA improvements at 8 other intersections, and parking provisions throughout the town on county and on municipal intersections. For the most part, these parking provisions are elimination of maybe 1 spot or maybe 2 so that people can come in and make that right turn. And going now from 2019 to 2022, we're looking to add a 2-way left turn lane on Pine and Oak on these 2 corridors. And that may require some widening unless we give up the parking. So that's a decision that the township will have to make eventually. And then the installation of Park and 7th and Park and 4th is not as straightforward as I would like it to be. The only reason is that it involves a rail crossing. So we're dealing with the NJDOT and we're dealing also with the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, to get that approval. It's doable, but there are some motions we have to go through. Now, in terms of the extensions, Vine, we just talked about it. But if you know, I'm sure you know that we're doing what I'm going to call the upper portion of Vine. Below that, there is a portion that's also disconnected. This is where we have the school built actually into or along what the alignment would have been for Vine. That's the portion that at some point in the future we need to look at, go around or do something else that may be appropriate. We have also New Hampshire Avenue, Arlington, Massachusetts, and Hurley. Some of these may involve the county, being that they are under county jurisdiction. Also, we talked about Sunset Road. This needs a feasibility study to determine, do we take any action, do we put a pedestrian bridge, do we put something else? So there are some decisions to be made in that regard. And then these are the other feasibility studies or concepts that the township will be doing over the mid and long term. A look at the whole busing situation in town. We talked at one point about maybe streamlining some of the school buses. It's very challenging, but we talked to a lot of schools, and there are a lot of solutions that we could do. Downtown circulation, we talked about a one-way system or keeping it two-way, and that's something that needs to be also looked at specifically in depth, and a decision made in that regard. Any extensions, of course, and the certain traffic signals on Route 9 and Route 88. That's just a visual to show you where we're looking to do some of the extensions. Just to orient you on this a little bit. This is Vine, and right now we're working on this. But we still have this disconnection here. The school is right here, by the way, that is in the alignment of the roadway. And then you have the Massachusetts, you have Harley, you have Sunset, you have all these other Salem and Arlington as also potential candidates for extensions in the future. That is also this is the New Hampshire Avenue extension. These are some other long-term extensions that are on the books. I think some of these may be on the county plan, which we'll look at in a minute. So as far as the county, right now, and for 2018, the county has 6 intersections on the books, I believe. And they're looking to also install 5 new traffic signals. And by the way, all of that is compiled in that spreadsheet. I gave you that 3-page spreadsheet. It's categorized by jurisdiction and by date. And as far as the county, on the midterm and short-term perspective, we're looking at some short-term fixes at 2 intersections at County Line and East End, and at Cedar Bridge and Clover. The county is looking to do improvements at 4 intersections, and the county is looking to install 3 new signals at James and Williams, Prospect and Cross, in addition to 1 more. But these 2, again, may be more difficult than the average one. James and Williams requires DOT approval and rail. Prospect and Cross also the same. So that delays the process a little bit. Now the county did 2 models, a 2025 model for the region and a 2040 model. And based on the 2025 model, they're looking to make these improvements, add 1 lane per direction to County Line Road between Heathwood and Bridge, and also add a lane per direction on Central between Cross and 9. In addition to that, add left turn lanes along various intersections along Cedar Bridge, west of Clover, and add a 2-way left turn lane on Cross between East Veteran and Route 9. Do the same, that is adding 2-way left turn lane on Prospect, and then on Kennedy Boulevard for certain portions. The 2-way left turn lane is that portion of the roadway where you can get into it to make a left to other side. This is the plan developed by the county. It is known as the 2025 model. It shows some of the improvements, which we all talked about, by the way. They're all on that spreadsheet, and they were included in the slides that I just showed. The improvements along the different corridors. This legend explains exactly what's happening on each of these corridors. Now for the 2040 model, what's beyond the 2025 is to add a lane per direction on Cross and add two-way left turn lanes on James between 9 and Williams. So that is the long-term proposal based on the 2040 model of the county. This is the 2040 model, and this is Cross. This will be needed due to the demographic change in the region and the pressure that roadway will be servicing over the next few years. So moving along, also for the county is looking to add one lane per direction on, I think we mentioned that already. Now for NJDOT, this is what I referred to earlier, or part of it is on the wish list. But the NJDOT has a project already, a resurfacing project and safety improvements. We understand that it's going to start in 2018, that project based on information we got from the DOT. The wish list includes additional lanes on Route 9 and additional lanes on Route 70, two-way left turn lane on 88, new signals on 9 and Oak, new signal on 88 in Linden, 88 in Park, 88 in Holly, 88 in Lexington, and striping and traffic signal improvements along other intersections on 9 and 88. So, and I think this is the last slide. Other discussions that we've been dealing with recently is Pine and Boulevard of Americas. This is, I think the township may have received some complaints on the operation of the signal. I think at one point residents thought that this was a county signal. It's actually not. It's a local signal. Also, we would recommend an on-call traffic consultant and to look into bringing up technology for your signalization and creating a virtual operation system. Now, so far in the last 6 months, I've been I'm going to call myself a de facto on-call traffic consultant for the township without any formal, paperwork. But the township needs to assign that to someone that is committed to it, someone that is a consultant to be able to also assist Steve in getting the work done. So that, I hope it didn't take much of your time. I tried to do this as fast as I could and still give you the information. And that's pretty much summarizes where we are.
Of course, stop it.
I don't know if the county has anything they want to add, or if you see anything here that maybe you weren't thinking, or some surprises. Some traffic lights we said you're going to put in.
We've coordinated with Maurice, and we feel that everything that's been depicted is right on point with where we're headed. Everything is going to be based on schedules and getting things, designed and implemented and permitting and all that. So we are working towards that. We do have all those signals in our queue to be worked on, and the roadway designs are in our queue as well.
So, Mayor, I had noticed a few things that I would like to bring to the consultant's attention while we were discussing it, and I'm hoping that we could get some answers. And other than questions from the committee members, I think we all on the committee should take some time to see if there's any priorities that were missed, so that we could get back to our consultants over the next week or two and see if there's something that we feel should be different. First of all, we're currently looking at doing sidewalks on County Line Road from, I think it's Oakwood maybe? I don't remember, it's near Heathwood. It's one of those streets, or Cedar View to Forest. So if you're thinking about doing widening, we were about to go to the neighbors and start asking for some right-of-way. I think we need to, Jeff, I think you should, if the county's in it, I know the county's not gonna put sidewalks in for us, unless John, you'll pick it up and just move the sidewalk over. So we need to do that sidewalk, but we wanna make sure that we give you the width that you need. So if we're already going to property owners, if we have to push it a couple of feet more, we may be able to do that for you. So if you could communicate with the county on that. I think that would be really important. The other question is, Mayor, I didn't notice your project here on Pine Street, where you were gonna take that one vacant piece of property and run the road.
Washington?
Was it Washington?
That's something that we were working with R&B on.
Right, but I didn't see it mentioned here. You
I think
aware?
that's part of the Vine Street extension. Remember we
Is
talked
it?
about, rather than widening Washington?
The realigning
Right.
along by New Jersey Hand.
Right.
Are you aware of that? Is Mazer?
Not by New Jersey Hand, but, well, at the other end of it.
Right. I was out basically last week when the list came out, so I haven't had a chance to review the list, so we can look at to revise or add that in there. But I know that was a project that we were looking at, either potentially doing the design this year or next year, and then with construction following, with all the permitting that may be required for that
So I
project.
think it's important that that gets put into the queue, and I know that was a
Right.
project.
Well, it's like
that-
you mentioned, it's going over this list and just making sure that everything that we've been looking at is in there.
Okay, the other two items that I know, the county wants to do and our residents are desperate for is that, the Massachusetts and Prospect Light and the James and Williams Light. So I know you need to deal with these,
State and
the railroads, thank you, and the state. I am sure that anything that the town can do to help you with reaching out to public officials, any paperwork that you need to file would be very important to us. I mean, James and Williams desperately needs a traffic light, and 2020, it just seems very far off.
I think it's 2018, Mayor.
Not James and Williams.
Massachusetts and Prospect.
Massachusetts and Prospect, but not James and Williams. James and Williams.
James and William? Let me check.
2020.
That's 2020, yeah, okay.
So it could be that the car that comes up to the intersection today will be waiting there till 2020 when you come and do the light.
Well, and that's what we're looking for is priorities.
So those
If
two,
that's a
those
priority,
two are
we can
extreme
look at moving that
priorities
up.
on that side of town. Those two,
We
I
have room
think.
for a third, would be New Hampshire and Chestnut, just north of 70.
Yes, we're working on that with DOT
I
now.
know you are. Anything we can do to expedite that will make an awful lot of people happy. Probably the number one complaint I get as far as intersections in town is over there. And it's strictly for safety issues too.
Correct.
And if there's some things that you think we should do as far as traffic controls, we're happy to, even if it's just temporary, put something in there, whether it's banning left-hand turns or something. But it's getting very dangerous over there for a lot of people.
Okay.
And we'd appreciate.
We'll take that in mind.
Thank you, and we'd appreciate if you could update that, the mayor's, actually the two projects that the mayor just discussed, just make sure they're on our spreadsheet, so when we refer
It
to
is,
them.
that one's in there for 2018, it's
Is
just
it?
if we can make it early
Oh.
2018 as opposed to late, it would be
That was-
wonderful. But I understand you're dealing with the state as well, so.
Right.
That was gonna be a jug handle of some sort, right? It was gonna be a little larger, it was inclusive.
It was gonna be multiple signals and modifying the jug handles there, yes.
Right. Okay, and I just think, Mayor, now that I think a very fine job was done of reducing everything for us to see right in front of us, we could review it and get back to Mazer so that they can include it in whatever future report. Now, I know the freeholders had asked us to vote on something. You want some sort, freeholder said you want some sort of resolution that says that we're okay with this, in short.
Well, yeah, we're looking for support of the transportation model and the schedule that we had presented at our meeting,
Okay.
to identify that, and with these modifications that you're talking about this evening, that would, that would be what we're looking for.
So we'll get the adjustments down to you, once you say it's okay, give us the final product, and I'll have it on for the next meeting.
All right, very good.
Our next meeting is March 8th.
March 8th? Okay.
So that gives us, what's today, June?
You have 30 days, it's
So
February
it gives us
8th.
30 days, you got plenty of time to
29
pull it
days.
together.
I think there's
Is that too
only
late?
21 days in February.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'd say it's all sounds good.
That's all I have.
I have a couple, but I just want to research it first before I tie up the meeting. One of them is Central Avenue. I noticed it's on the agenda, but I was wondering, so we have the restriping and everything that we discussed.
Okay, yes, I'm aware of what you're talking about.
I know Isaac had a lot of input with me.
We have a long agenda tonight, so anything else, gentlemen? Would you like to add, subtract, question, comment? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Could we arrange to get this put up on our website as a PowerPoint presentation too for
Yeah,
folks?
Mayor, if I may ask that we wait until
Yeah, when the final version of
the
it is
final
done.
version, right, yep.
I'd
Until
like to
Jeff
try and get it
has a
out to
chance
as
to
many
look at
people
it
as possible.
and finalize all the dates, and then, all right,
Okay.
good.
Thank you all, gentlemen, thanks for coming out.
All right.
Sorry to drag you away from home this time. of
Thank
night.
you.
That's okay.
I'm gonna take 2-3 minutes to wrap up things up here.
That's all right. We're still in open session for a while. Sorry.
Thank you, guys.
As long as you don't hurt yourself at first, we're fine. God. I'll go grab one. The little ones.
Do we know the county guys' names?
Mark Jenke and John Ernst. John Ernst is the county engineer, and Mark Jenke is the assistant.
I think he's assistant, isn't he?
I think he's the assistant, I don't know exactly the title. Hey, look, it's
Put 'em
Mark
in the
Jenke and
minutes.
John Ernst. And I think there were 4 people, 3 or 4 people there from Mason.
Knew it was something I didn't want to add, and I forgot. The only person I spoke was Maurice, though.
Right, so I'm not gonna put the other ones in there, I just
Yeah,
wanted to,
Ernst,
because the guy from the
Ernst.
county spoke, so, just wanna make sure.
All right, Tom, let's get moving.
All right, number one, the light blue folder is the workshop one. And, the first one, the number one is, if the infrastructure projects, I'd like to get moving on that. We need approval to go forward on being on that.
All right, yeah, I'm fine with it. Mayor?
Which, I don't know which what color folder.
Light
blue.
Light blue.
Light blue. I have no problem.
Just the one that was distributed, right?
No, this is
Yeah,
number one.
the one that he, yeah.
No one has a copy of it because it's still a draft form.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, number 3 on the agenda is Congregation Faraday. They received a tax bill of over $25,000 for tax year 2017. We were informed by the assessor. Apparently they mailed out the tax bill in October of 2017, and we passed over the 30-day appeal period. I met with Seeger, explained that the reason was denied for exemption. We can, it's a nonprofit, so we could really just rescind it to an ordinance. To a resolution.
So what Ed is saying is just that this was a paperwork issue, basically, that there's no requirement, but it's something that you check off in the box. They didn't check it off, and now they're ready to do it. I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Next meeting, Mayor?
Yeah, March 6th, okay. That's up there.
Yeah.
March 8th, that's right. The next one on the agenda is a piece of property that was put up for sale, and no one bid on it, and they wanted me to lower the price, and I told them no, because of the assessed value of the property. Input from anybody?
Yes, I have some input, so. Mayor, this is the one that the shul had asked for. This was the one near Woodland too. And we put it up for sale for like, for a little over 400,000 or 600, I think it was over 600,000, right?
I forget what it was, I don't remember.
It was a high number.
Should be.
And it's in an area that congregation had asked for because they feel there's a need for service to the congregation. What Steve had told us then was, we couldn't put it out for for a much lower number than what its value is, although you could put the restriction on there, it has to be a nonprofit use. We put it up for a nonprofit use, nobody came and bid on it. My feeling was, it's an open market, if we want it to be used for a nonprofit use, we put it back out at a lower price. In other words, obviously the market wasn't taking it at that price. Tom thinks we should go up. Tom thinks if there were no bidders, if you go higher, somebody will come bid on it.
That's fine.
No, I'm kind of opposed to lower the price, but I don't wanna put it up either legally, I mean,
You don't want what?
I don't wanna put it up. should
I know.
What's the current value of it?
600,000.
From the last appraisal, from the last reval?
It would be more than, it would be 25,000.
What was the value at the reval? Because we're still within that 18-month period.
600,000.
If nobody came and bought it, if, it's an open public bid, if we start it lower and it's worth 600, it will get bid up.
Were there any restrictions on it when we put it out the last time?
Just for nonprofit only.
That's why nobody bid on it.
Right.
And I'm frankly advising against it, I told Mayor that.
You're advising against putting it up.
I'll put it back out at the current assessed value, but I can't justify lowering it.
You wanna remove the restrictions?
I don't think that,
Okay.
that the neighborhood would want that property to go up with no restrictions for residential sale. I think there's a need for a public use, and people are willing to pay for a public use, but they're not willing, or they're unable to pay that high number for a
Yeah,
public
but
use.
I wish I could. I mean, I'll turn it into a park.
Okay. Oh, I understand, all right, I'm making a case, if we feel.
No, I understand that, but legally, I don't think it's a smart
Okay.
idea to do so.
Steve, I always follow your advice, 99% of
So
the
do you want
time.
to try it again at that?
I guess so.
All right, so let's put it out one more time at that assessed value.
Do we, 1 second, do we have to reread, you have to
No.
read ordinances?
To
Oh,
read it.
well, are we taking off the restriction?
No,
No.
going out the
No.
same way.
Then we just have to do another land sale notice, right, Harold?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got an ordinance.
Because we already have an ordinance. Okay.
So we have enough to put it up for sale on March 8th.
We do that.
I don't think we have enough
I don't think
time.
we have enough time.
What is this?
It's
Is there
gotta
two meetings
be-
in March?
Doesn't make any
The
difference.
22nd, we might be able to get it for the 22nd.
It's no rush to put it out, I don't think a month will make a difference.
All right.
I don't think anybody will bid on it, but hey, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, do you wanna ask them if they're interested at the same
They
price?
said it, well, they're the ones that reached out to us and said, please put it up at a lower price.
See, but my question was, you wanna ask them if they're interested at the same price? Because
Yeah,
otherwise
before we
may
put
be-
it up, we might as well save our
Yeah,
save
well,
time.
yes.
Okay, I'll ask them.
Ask them if they're interested at the same price.
Okay, okay,
I can't,
Yes.
I'd love to, but I can't.
okay.
All right, number 5 on your list is road opening. If everyone wants to review that. And I did look into it, and we don't have an estimate of how big the hole would be.
Didn't we, through the chair, didn't we change this? Didn't we say that the gas company has a right to do it as long?
As long as it's done with an infrared repair when it's
Yeah.
done.
Well, I still want to bring to everybody's attention so no one complains, that's why I'm bringing it to everybody.
Yeah, so it's, well, I guess, you know, they called me and they said, we need like a 3x3 hole. And I told them it had to be done with the infrared. They said, of course, but it still has to go to Jeff, I guess, to
Yeah.
let him know. But
So we're not temporarily lifting the moratorium, we're just following our moratorium rules that say that it has to be done with infrared.
And it has to be more or less like an emergency also, so this is.
Well, this is an emergency disconnect so that the house is
Disconnect
taken
tap,
down.
yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I think it says in the rules, in the ordinance that we did, I think it says that if anyone wants to break the moratorium, I think Jeff has to send it to the committee before.
Got it.
Just had a different
Okay.
one.
Because it was just paid last fall, so it's a brand new road you're gonna
I
have to
think
open.
that
Really
road
good
opening
infrared repair.
Huh?
Have to do a really good infrared repair on it.
I wish there was a way that we could talk to the gas company, because the whole reason we have to do this is because the gas company refuses to, and they say it's for safety reasons. I don't know if we can get up to the top over there. They say they refuse to mow or stub anything.
Gas line.
Any gas lines. The only way they'll tap.
This is to disconnect a gas line, not to put in a new one. There's an existing house that they're taking down, there's a gas service to it. And the only way to disconnect it is to go down to the street to I guess, the connection there.
And doing this for
And
over
that's-
25 years, you're never gonna beat the gas company, because they can make anything, that smells like it, so we're
Yeah,
gonna
but
do
what
it.
happens is, what I'm saying is, if they would agree to sub it, and these people knew that they were doing this, which is what happens, and they have this moratorium, they call the gas company and say, look, the moratorium is coming, can you disconnect the gas and stub it at the curb, instead of, right now.
I think this house is coming down for parking and an extension of the schools, I don't know if they're gonna
Got it.
reconnect. So I
Okay.
think it's a permanent disconnect with this particular use.
Okay.
But I agree with you, I mean, it's,
Okay, next on there is, Mary, you want to bring that up, some language stuff?
yeah, met with John Jackson, Terry, and a few other folks, and, basically, if you read through here, the buffering right now is design criteria. And what he's recommending is that we make it into a zoning requirement, which would make it a little bit harder for different kinds of buffers to be waived. John just feels it's a much better way to make sure that the two different uses between two different sites are maintained properly.
Especially perimeter buffers.
Right.
So if you have a Wawa next to a residential area, it could require a buffer as opposed to a design waiver. Which means you have to change the ordinance.
I think it makes perfect sense.
I just hope that we realize that by doing this, we're pushing more to the zoning board than to the planning board.
No, they could still get a variance.
No, they cannot.
Why not? They could get a variance. It's a
If you
buffer
read,
variance.
if you read what he brings down from Cox, I just read it. Provisions contained in the zoning ordinance are not waivable and no exceptions may be granted by the planning board. Just make sure we realize that. In other words, what you're doing is if somebody's coming in for a large application, now it could be, we don't mind if it's heard by the zoning, to me, it makes no difference zoning or planning. But if you want the larger developments to be heard by the planning board and this may turn their variance into the variance that has to go to the zoning board. Just keep that in mind.
Or they could adjust it to maintain its use at the planning board.
Or they cannot ask for the variance, obviously. I think so. I just read it now for the first time, but I think that's what it says.
Well, I'll reach out to John Jackson and ask him to verify that.
Harold, am I right? Did you read this?
Maurice and I were just talking about that. The planning board can always adopt or grant variances for bulk requirements, from the bulk requirements. If Jackson's suggestion is to take the design.
It's not a waiver. He wants to change it
From waiver to
a variance.
But it's a bulk requirement then under the zone, and that would be a C, and it would be something that the planning board could do. I think Maurice was just whispering that to me as well, I think. That
Okay.
it's not a use, and it's not one of the 7, like height is one of the 7 in the
Okay.
D variance, so I
You
think.
just have to explain the positive and negative criteria and make sure that the positive outweighs. And I've never heard an attorney or an engineer say, happens to me that the
No,
negatives.
you've gotta show a hardship under C1 or flexible, under the flexible C. You've gotta show that the benefits of granting it advance the purposes of zoning, and, there's no negative impact on the zone plan and zone scheme.
Unless Flannery starts being an expert for the objectives, then everything will flip around.
You didn't say that.
Inside
I'm
voice.
sorry, I had to.
Want that for a public record?
Okay, so, the answer is, I'm fine with it. And even if it goes to zoning, I just wanna make a point, I don't know.
No, I
if that's
understand what
the
you're
case.
saying, but it's-
And it could be you don't care if it goes to zoning or planning.
I care that we're addressing things
The right way.
to take care of the folks that are on the outside of the developments, not necessarily the
I
folks
agree.
that are built.
It's true, a planning board member that's sitting there and sees a waiver, they look at it like,
Well,
But a
that's one of the
variance looks
concerns.
strong.
I mean, there are a lot of changes that are gonna be made to the way the board's hearing applications. So, we'll discuss that at the next meeting. All right, so we'll go ahead with this one. If you wanna work with John Jackson, have it drafted, please.
Harold, you good?
And you can bring up those concerns with him, and if you notice something that's unintended, let me know.
I should follow up, because the quote from Cox is not exactly clear. If it's a conditional use application before a planning board and they don't meet all the conditions, absolutely, it goes to zoning board, it's a variance at that point, because they're not meeting the use. Conditional use is a use requirement. If you don't meet everything, buffering is a requirement under the conditional use. Planning board can't hear it. It does flip over to zoning board at that point. And that may be what the Cox quote is when they're talking about exceptions. I was reading a little bit
All
further.
right, so work with John, bring Mayor into the discussion if you could.
Mayor,
if you want.
I'm fine whichever way it turns out. I
Okay.
just want us to know what
So
we're
when we
asking.
have it ready for first reading,
Just
maybe
make
not for the
sure.
next meeting, but at the next conference meeting, you can explain to us exactly what you put together and what some of the consequences would be.
Yeah, and it's pretty much a move from the design requirements over to the bulk requirements of the zone, and that's in the UDO.
All right. I got a couple of
All right,
things.
next move on to property.
So before we do that, IT. Jonathan's been on board for about a month now, and he's been evaluating the condition of our entire network. And we're probably about 10 years beyond where we should be as far as replacement. So in the next week or two, we're gonna be replacing all the network switches, and we're also gonna be putting in a complete Wi-Fi network for the entire building, as well as for across the street inspections. We need a lot more after that, and once that's done, we have to actually go in and look at all the cabling that's in there. A lot of the cabling is old, some of it's been spliced, most of it's not up to current specs, and that's one of the reasons people have been having so much trouble with computers being slow and whatnot. So we'll be looking at the wiring, some of that cabling is gonna have to be replaced. Once we have the backbone in place, then we're gonna look at replacing the servers, which is a bigger cost. We're evaluating different ways to go right now, but hopefully before the summer, we'll have everything up and running, and we'll be and security is one of the main reasons too. I mean, there's a new firewall going in, there's a lot of different security cautions that we're putting in place, so we hopefully won't run into any of the problems that we've had in the past, so we'll see what happens there. Just wanted to run that by you, let you know what's going on. All right, Tom.
Okay, everybody, the dark blue folder. I have a property purchase request for block 5, lot 2.
We need to do one more thing with our property request, and I know we always send it to engineering and planning. Harold, I think, through the chair, I think we need to make sure that we don't sell any property that has a DEP restrictions on it. We did an
Well, no,
extensive,
because
we did 800 acres.
Ally picks it up.
Which,
She should see it. She always references
please make
smart
sure she's
growth.
very educated on, well, it's
I-
not
I
smart
know.
growth, because our deal with the DEP was a little different. So I think you should just make sure that our planning department cross-references on with that DEP list that we did.
Yeah, we've got it in the deed. I'll make sure they have that conservation restriction deed in front of them as they go through it, and they can reference it and just check it off. But that's an excellent point, because we're starting to see that a little bit now.
Yes.
Oh, I thought he owned the blue.
No, we haven't, but
Close.
Yeah. we almost did. I looked at it and I said, this has a restriction on it, you can't put it up for sale.
So it must be in agreement with the list, what was that
Well,
list called?
what happened was the DEP asked us for a conservation easement. We did it on about 800 acres around town. I think it was about 800 acres.
Something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
And it's
see.
by block and lot, we have it
That
somewhere,
way,
it's
I would
recorded with the
have
county.
that
So that means if we sell it and the person doesn't check, doesn't like do a title search, they're not gonna be able to do anything with the property that we sold.
And really, that property's supposed to be sold for the non-contiguous lots.
Clustering, right.
Clustering, that's right, that's what it's supposed to be for.
So make sure Ally understands that, please. Sorry, Mayor.
No, it's okay. So I understand he wants to use this to add to his existing backyard.
Yeah, there'll be 2 people bidding on it, I think. I think there's 2 property owners that are contiguous.
Steve, can we put a restriction that it can't be subdivided unless it's added to the original property? And
Yeah, it's undersized, it has to be that way.
well, I'm just saying, I don't know if they added to the existing lot now, if they're gonna try and split it into two houses there.
In other words, by adding into another lot, is the new lot big enough for 2 houses? That's the next question.
I don't know that you could restrict it that way. If they add 2 and they create enough space for 2 lots, I think they could subdivide.
I disagree with you, Harold. You
Yeah.
can restrict it to anything you want. You
Okay.
don't have to buy it.
Gentlemen, how do we feel?
I'm okay.
We used to do it in Manchester, we used to restrict it where you couldn't build. You bought the thing to expand your yard, and that was it.
I'm okay with expanding the lot, but
Do you wanna put the restriction on that, it can't be subdivided or it can't be built
I'm
on?
afraid they're gonna come in and the next thing you know, we got another headache going on out there. He may have an ulterior motive.
So how do we counter that ulterior motive?
Don't sell it.
All right, don't sell it.
Why? Why don't you ask him? Maybe he wants a bigger, maybe he wants a bigger
I'm not
backyard.
against selling it.
That's
I
what it
just wanna
says, but
make
Mike's
sure-
concern is how can we take that to the bank?
So Steve just told us by doing a deed restriction.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
Fine.
we did it in Manchester all the time. It's just-
What I'll do is I'll
Just
call
can't
him up,
put any structure on
and
it.
if he's not happy with it, then we won't put it up for sale. If he is, then I'll
Yeah,
move
tell them
forward
that,
with it.
okay, well, both homeowners, both property owners have to be called to see if they're interested. And just tell them, I don't know what the restrictions, Steve, what's the best way to do it, not to build on it?
Yeah, we used to do it all the time. Most structures can be put on the thing. I mean, they wanna buy it, they wanna buy it. Just wanna expand your expand your backyard. The only problem is structures are everything, so they might not be able to put up a fence, so you might have to put no structure except a fence.
Or that it's added to the existing lot, which cannot be subdivided. Can you do that?
Either way,
That's-
sure. Either way.
That's, I feel more comfortable with that.
I
This way
do
they know
too.
it has to remain as a single lot.
Okay. Find out, Tom, what they wanna do, and then we'll fix
And it's
it.
only 7 that could do that, 8 is only, they probably wouldn't even bid on it.
Minimum would be 38,300.
Okay.
All right, next one, number 2, is block 1043, lot 3.
Gentlemen, what's our pleasure?
Mayor, you know, tonight, I don't know if I'm looking at the map right, but tonight, this is a couple of blocks over, I think, from the Oak Street Corp, correct?
I think it's right on the
On the edge
outskirts
of
of
it?
it.
It's contiguous, isn't it?
I'm not sure if I'm.
Ally has a reference to her memo.
Yeah, this is, Mayor, this is why I told you we had that one block, one parcel in the Oak Street Core project. And I wanted to sell it to, finish off the area.
Are we're talking, you're talking about doing that street vacation tonight, so that we could,
It's on the agenda, I'm not talking about it.
I mean, it's on the agenda, that's to provide for parks and such in that area, right?
Mhm.
You know, maybe before we sell this, we should just see how it plays, maybe it's 10,000 square feet, maybe eventually there'll be need for another little pocket park there. And we could use the money, you've gotta look at the grid, I don't know, I'm honestly.
I can really use the money, just so you know, I mean, I'm being depleted pretty quick. And, you know, and you're already building all the houses in there anyway, I'm just saying one more house.
It's
All
on-
right, Isaac, what are your thoughts?
It's on the grid street?
I'm cool with selling it, Tom needs the money, you know?
I'm cool, so I just wonder, do we know how much recreation area in that, and how much has been put up in that area?
Yeah, well, that was the whole design, right? That was the whole design that was done. The streets and making a grid instead of twisting and using the extra street for the parks, that was the whole thing with the street. All right, Mayor, if you're in favor, I'll follow you, I'm serious.
You guys all right?
Corner piece.
That can be easy if you're gonna have to put a duplex there. With the
Well, he says he can.
It's 10,000 square feet, it's R10, it says here, right?
Yeah.
I know, it's a
Yeah.
corner lot, you're gonna need setbacks on both sides.
We can sell it as a single-family home lot.
They'll go in.
Their
for-
problem, they have to figure it out. We put a price on it, they have to figure it out.
Well,
Is the assessment recommendation, assessor recommendation based on the assessed value, or is it based on what values in the area you're going for?
What the market rate is right now.
and he's saving 207,000.
Listen, this is gonna be an open public bid, right?
Mhm.
So, to me, it looks like if it's a duplex lot, it's $100,000 a lot approximately in a developed area. I think that, again, I'm not exactly sure where the pricing is at today, but I would not be surprised if it gets bid up a little bit.
Well, he's got it at 207.
Well, I'm saying it's $100,000 for each head, a duplex is two, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying, you could build a duplex on it. Right? If you're gonna put it up,
Are
put
you
it up open
recommending-
public bid, you can start it at 207, I would be surprised if it doesn't go up, maybe it will go, I don't know.
Are you seeing go up or go down? What we?
No, put it out at what it is, it's an open public, it's an open public market.
I was told there would be bidders for the property
I'm sure there's gonna be bidders,
at the price.
so it'll go up.
Okay.
You got your money, Tom,
Well, part of it, working on it.
don't worry, we'll spend it.
You alone?
That's what I'm afraid of.
Put a whole block of streetlights.
All right, I just brought this up for everybody's attention, the next one. As you know, tonight, we're going to do the first reading for the property next to the store, if you turn the next page. The property to the right of the store is
Oh,
going
right,
to,
right.
we're going to first reading tonight for B. And the property to the left, it's already sitting there. I didn't know if we wanted to maybe change the zone and make it commercial along that area and put it up for sale,
What zone is it now?
residential.
Residential what?
How did this property become available suddenly?
Well, it's always been there, but now with Lakewood gonna take the property next to it, it leaves that property open, if something good for a commercial in that area, I thought might be a good idea. I mean, I just brought to everybody's attention that, you know, if not, then I'll put it back to sleep.
Oh, it makes sense. It makes sense to
So-
make it commercial.
So I think that the, well, through the chair. I think the way to do that is if we, it's an R40 zone and it's an acre, so it's about the accommodation for a single family house. Highly doubt anybody's gonna buy that piece of property there and use it for a single family house. So they would have to go to the Board of Adjustment and get a variance. And I think you can put a deed restriction on it, that you're opposed to any increase in residential. And then they'll either put a house of worship or a single family house, which I doubt they will, a school, or they'll do some sort of retail commercial. I don't know if we have to change zone. Are we allowed to be a contract purchaser? Are we allowed to be a contract seller to somebody in front of the Board of Adjustment?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are we allowed to sell it on condition?
Yes, you can have conditions on the sale. My concern is that you're talking about changing it from residential to commercial.
Not us, let them go to the Board of
Right,
Adjustment.
no, the truth
Through
is, you're
Board
right.
of
we
Adjustment
can't-
is fine, you need a
Yeah,
use
we can't
variance.
spot zone, yeah.
That's the wrinkle with it, because you just did a master plan.
But
Just
people may
adopted a
not,
master plan,
but
didn't
people may
touch
not
it.
buy it cash and then take their chance. You'd have to fashion it in such a way that we would sign off on their application to the Board of Adjustment.
We have that right now with the detention base. The detention base now at Westgate. That's contingent on their getting their approvals, they're applying for that now. We're not going to go immediately with
We
that.
give them the 10% until they get done, if they get the approvals, then we can finish.
Then you close.
The close on it.
And I would just put a restriction in it that says you can't increase the residential use.
Can you do that?
Yes, you can, we've done it in the past, sure, you can restrict it and indicating it gotta go for a use variance, but I'm not crazy about the idea of the, changing commercial to a commercial zone.
So we won't change it, let them.
No,
let them go to
absolutely, that's what I'm
Adjustment.
saying.
All right, yeah, all right, that's fine.
I'm okay with that. Maybe a school will buy it, and then they'll just buy it in cash.
How do we wanna handle the sale, if we wanna sell it?
What's the property that we just, that the LCSW just got this lot?
That's
Well, that's down the road. That's way down the road.
Which one, it's on the same property.
It's not, I told you,
That's
there
up
was
by
a-
the stadium.
it was just a copy of the contract that hadn't been called all the different
No,
names.
this is not that piece. This is what we,
No, I know.
this is the next property over.
So we wanna try and sell it, do we wanna put it out? How, God bless, how would you, sell that? I mean, sell that, if we wanted to
Deed
be a
restricted.
contract, just don't follow the mechanism of it.
What's the wording you would use?
It's a public auction, you put it out there, and with the deed restriction, it indicates that the successful bidder must make application to do this or that with the property,
And non-residential.
okay?
I don't know if you would do non-residential or no increase in residential. In other words, the
That's-
only thing you could do is a single-family home there. Currently, you're allowed to do a single-family home, so maybe you would say, and no variances, no residential variances or something like that. No residences to increase residential.
But they could ask for a commercial variance, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, that's what we want.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
the intent is to try and use it for commercial purposes, but because because it's not in that zone, we
You
can't.
can't write no variances, you can write no residential variances.
There's no commercial around it at all.
There is, but it's
Right
not in
down-
that
right
zone.
down- right-
Yes, keep right here, that's why.
Well, then that takes the spot zoning field away a little bit.
See it, there's
Yeah,
residential here.
all that purples, I didn't know.
No, this is our property, but there's a commercial in there. So with that would be spots.
Between there and the tracks,
Why don't you ask,
Why would we wanna
Terry-
why would we wanna change it? Why don't we see if somebody else would just go to the zoning board and get it done? Why would we wanna put ourselves through all the noticing and all that expense? And then the person's gonna go to the land use board anyway, let them just go to the land use board and they'll notice it at the zoning board.
I'm not so sure it's spots, why don't you get an opinion from?
Even if it is, why would we want to go through the expense? Say, we want this for commercial, so there's two ways to do it. Either we could go through the whole rigmarole of switching the zone, then selling it and having to go to the planning board and they have to notice anybody anyway. Or they can just buy it from us on condition, go to the zoning board and do all the noticing then.
What if they don't
You say-
suppose?
you know, there's a lot of what ifs. Why don't we just, we're not in a hurry, right? I mean, this doesn't have to be done tonight. Why don't we do a study on it and see which is the best way to go on it, rather than sit here and guess, and then maybe set the wrong guess. Do we have to do it tonight?
We don't have to.
There's gonna be too
Just-
many
I'm just
questions
bringing
on
it
it.
up. Get a recommendation
We
from the
don't know we
attorneys.
wanna sell it, how are we gonna sell it?
Huh?
Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, Harold, would you look into the best way to present this if we wanted to go ahead with it?
And if I did spend the money, then we would put that into the sale, that they have to reimburse us for the expenses that we did to make it commercial on top of the sale and bill of.
It's gonna be an open public sale, so it's gonna be one big deal.
Mary, where you wanna handle that is Aaron Perlow.
Me?
Yes. You know a little more about this than I do.
What was this again? Give me a minute. Okay. Whew, give me a second. You know, I sent him, when he asked me about this, I asked him to go to you so engineering could give us their opinion on it, because I was having a very hard time following what he was doing. Did we send it to engineering?
Did I?
Yeah.
No, I thought he did.
To our engineering department? Oh, we have to send it to,
All right, then I'll send it.
yeah, if you give me, give me a second, let me try to remember what it is. It's very complicated. For me, at least. Hey,
Harold, this references conversations with you too. I think Mayor's right, we should probably run this by engineering first, see what makes sense.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with engineering about, he's trying to vacate some streets and is looking to, I think, purchase a parcel from the
He's
township.
looking to redirect the road from what I'm seeing in here.
in other words, he's not exactly what we had someplace, he doesn't wanna get rid of the street, he wants to move the street.
Yeah, but not exactly. He also was asking us earlier about when zone changes would come into effect, because he wanted to be in a different zone to maximize, and this is probably the next effort of this individual to try and do that by rearranging the roads, maximizing what he can develop over there. But yeah, I would absolutely think engineering needs to say, this works
So
or
why don't you
doesn't
take
work.
this to engineering, see what, if anything, makes sense, and then maybe for the next meeting, bring it back, give us a presentation
I'll
on
read
what
it
they're
again.
looking to do and whether or not you and engineering feel it's an appropriate thing.
I
to
feel
do.
very bad, cause he did explain it to me and it's, I don't remember.
It's
so
difficult to
it's
follow.
very
It takes three
complicated.
efforts to try and find what he's trying to
Yeah.
do, and that's why engineering needs to say, these roads can go or can't go, so that's the most
Sorry,
important.
Mayor.
And that piece of property that he wants to purchase, we did purchase that from him just before I got here in 2015. And at the same time, that's one of the parcels that we deed restricted for the plan endorsement.
And now he wants it back?
Listen,
So What's he gonna do with it if it's deed restricted?
It says tree preservation here,
Oh.
but again,
What is he talking about, the property owned by Lakewood Fire Department? Where is that?
I don't remember.
I thought, originally I thought this was across
Maybe it's New
Harrogate,
Hampshire.
but it's not.
no, this is over.
No,
New
this is
Hampshire.
down at the end of
Chestnut, it's
Chestnut.
probably the New Hampshire Fire Station.
It's probably back to back with the New Hampshire.
You raised your
Fire
hand
Station.
nicely, so I'll accept the question.
Yeah, I actually know a little bit about this project because a lot of the Take Back Lakewood guys live over there in that neighborhood. Just, I gave you a secret. But,
You get addresses?
I'm not saying anything.
No, I understand what
I
you're
just
saying.
wanted to be very careful that this project is next to the existing Stanford Meadows that has only one entrance. He doesn't want to connect that to the existing grid that is existing now, what will go out to Chestnut, and he doesn't want to open up the access to Salem Street. There's no access now, but he wants to kill the grid, and you should be very careful about it.
Okay, thank you.
Is this the property behind the firehouse?
Yeah.
This is the property behind the fire,
Behind
okay, yeah.
66, yeah.
They've been asked to the fire commission.
I just know he went for the zoning
Okay.
board, he went to the planning board, back to the
I'm
zoning.
familiar with it. Let's get it straight.
That's how I know about it.
Okay, so Harold, you have some information to,
So he wants to connect to Stanford Meadows, so
He doesn't want it.
Doesn't want it.
does not.
He wants to vacate the street that connects to Stanford Meadows, and that's the dangerous part. Because you need that street to connect. For Stanford Meadows' sake, because it's a fire safety that there's only one exit.
And I'm against that.
say,
We got
Okay.
enough of that.
All right, next, road vacation from Weinstein's office.
Well, like, everyone can hear you when you say that stuff.
I know.
Okay, good.
No, I know.
You're whispering it loudly.
He knows what he's doing.
Okay, good.
Well, you know how
All right, one of the things I talked about with the chairman of the planning and zoning board is that anytime a street vacation request comes before the board, before we take any action on it, I'm gonna meet with both of them so that this board and those two can actually look
Yeah.
at it and make sure that it makes sense or doesn't make sense and get some input. So I will take this one, I'll bring it to them, and then for the next meeting, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But this has gone to engineering already, correct?
Second.
Yeah.
Lot 366, the big lot there. What is that? Is that the lumberyard? Or is this much higher?
If you look at the next page, Mayor, there's a whole picture of stuff. Overview.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So Mike, this is not down by where you wanted to put that road,
that's
right?
what I'm looking at. That's just what I'm looking at now.
I think that might be it.
No, this is not the lumberyard, this is much further up, this is
It's
closer.
all the way by Cross.
This is all the way up by Cross, right? This is all the way up by Cross. Mike, you're much further down there.
Is that the one on the curve that
Yeah.
fully developed?
That's, I think that warehouse used to be called American, maybe, something.
Where's the pump station?
Which pump
That
station?
more to there's a well there. There's a, New Jersey American's got a well there.
I think that's further east, yeah.
I'm not for vacating any of those streets, because we're still looking at possibly,
No, but not, this one you can't, Mike, because it goes right into the other you see what I'm saying? It doesn't, doesn't go to another road, it goes right into the
there's
plant.
James Street, right? You see?
Yeah.
And it comes into the railroad.
And then on the other side of the railroad, you're in private property. It's not
Yeah,
like the
I
one
see
you
it,
had down
I
there.
see it, I see it. That might be Clayton's.
Yeah, Mayor, just so that you understand, I don't know if you remember, what Mike had been talking about at one point was putting a
Yes, yeah,
sunset.
right.
but-
It's still
so
in the,
I
it's
just-
still
just
in
wanna
the
make
plans.
sure,
Yeah, The
that-
engineer
that-
still has it in the plans.
Yeah, you just wanna make sure that
I
this
still
doesn't
would like
affect
to,
that.
I'd like to bring that up again. It's in the plans for possibly getting it done. That would be ideal. We can go to South Lake Drive right to 70.
It looks like part of Wakefield's already been vacated.
Yeah. If after meeting with them, you're okay with it, Mayor, and you think we'll make for a
I'll see
safe.
what the planning board.
The planning board thinks it's a safer application, and I'll bet.
Where do you think it's been vacated, Ray?
Just before the railroad.
Look at the yellow, and it ends before it gets to the, it ends basically with the property line of,
Yeah, I
lot
see
4.
it now, I'm watching it, and I see it. What is that back there? I'm trying to think of what that is.
I know where that is, it was application by the planning board on this.
Right.
And they wanna vacate, like I could speak.
Yeah, I gave you the
I was
thing.
by the planning board and I spoke on it. Basically is, he wants, this property, it connects to the railroad, so it doesn't back up to any roads. He wants to vacate it, actually, what happened was, is he wanted to make a road in for the trucks to go to the back, and he wanted to use the other side for septic. So we told him is that he should make a loop to go around and around, and he, actually, this street, doesn't want to develop as a township road. He wants you to vacate it and use it as a township, as a private road, and do the off-street parking, on-street parking on that.
He would only get half of it though.
Yeah, so he wants to use he only wants to develop half of it and not the other half, something to that extent. And the chairman said, that this is what it said, that if he could accommodate to build the road on a private road, and it shouldn't be the township, and have all the on-street parking, they will be okay with it, something to that extent.
Thank you. I'm a private planning board secretary. All right, so I'll take this to the chairman and see how they feel and then come back with it.
Okay. Next is, another vacation towards on Cherry Tall Road Avenue.
Mayor, this is the one that you had asked me about walking in, right?
Yeah, I had gotten a call about this. Apparently it was vacated a couple of years ago, and one of the property owners said they weren't noticed and objected to it, and the vacation was overturned in court. Now, apparently that property owner now is in favor of the vacation, so they're coming back to us to ask us if we would reinstate that vacation.
Not for all of it, for part of it, for part of Charity Tall. And they make that clear in their consent.
And then they'll drop their lawsuit against us, or?
No, they're not doing that. They're gonna continue on with that, but they're accommodating a neighbor and it's saying that they are in favor of partial vacation of Charity Tall, which means we'd have to re-vacate it and properly notice the property owners of that site.
But if they sign off on it, what are they still suing us for?
Suing for damages for the original vacation. They claim that there's injury to them because the street was vacated, but it's been unvacated, so I don't know where they're going with it, but the litigation's not over.
Why do they want to vacate it now? Why have they changed their mind?
Because it's hurting a neighbor, they wanna help the neighbor out. There's a neighbor there that, similar to like what we just discussed now with you know, that the planning board asked for a street vacation, so back then, I guess, there was something there that needed a vacation, and this property was behind that one, so it affected him, so now he's saying, look, I don't care what you do in the front part, can we sign an agreement with you if there's still ongoing litigation, are we allowed to do that?
Well, the question I have is, how does it impact the ongoing litigation? I don't know if it does or not.
I wanna know, is
Oh, is
it
it-
advantageous to us to vacate it?
Well, it is advantageous to us, because then at least we have one less person who's liable to sue us.
I'm not worried about the lawsuit.
Well,
I'm worried about
That's the advantage.
vacating a street that we shouldn't be vacating. I just,
But the whole thing was done several years ago, and it was approved, that the vacation was approved. I don't know the
well, that
basis.
doesn't make it right to vacate.
No, and I don't know the basis of why it was done there.
There was a parallel road done.
Pardon?
There was a parallel road done. So this was vacated, and there was another street that was put in. And this road as it is, I don't think is ever gonna be, Mayor could correct me, but I don't think it's,
I think,
it's ever gonna be
yeah,
built.
I think that it's a good idea to do this, as long as the attorneys can work out that the sign off that we get while we're getting sued, works. I just don't know how that works.
Well, if I might, I don't think that his claim has much merit for damages, because all along he's been asking for damages and attorney's fees, but I don't know if this would impact the strength of his case, I can't figure it out.
So we gotta find an attorney that could figure it out.
Where does that go after he passes?
Oops.
If you just wanna help out somebody, I don't really care, but I don't wanna have a negative impact.
I think it makes sense to do it, as long as it's kosher to do it while there's an ongoing lawsuit.
It's
It's
on,
good, it's
it's
good.
on the other side of Tower Street. Where does that go? Where does that street go? Vacant part of a lot that's not there. What is over here?
That's the guys, you mean further south?
Right, just on
South
the
to
other side
north.
of that.
No, that's the development.
It's part of
I mean, the north part of the
Eventually it
south
goes
part.
to New Hampshire. You want what's further down there?
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
Well, okay, New Hampshire, but I mean,
There's two.
This
Isaac,
street here,
Isaac,
Sims,
you explain it to me?
just trying my best. Is Sims Avenue go,
Both sides.
is Sims Avenue gonna go all the way through? Or no? What's Sims Avenue supposed to go all the way through?
Well, that, Sims is the what? Sims is the one that we vacated at one
we
point?
can't continue.
No, we vacated Charity Toll.
Charity Toll, and
Place of
Sims is
Sims.
supposed to do that. I believe so, I think that's what the application is. I mean, we should just make sure that that's
Just
the
that,
case.
that Clinton was affected by it, so he challenged us.
Well, you guys can go ahead.
For some reason, he got summary judgment.
Mike, do you wanna go ahead? Isaac, do you wanna go ahead?
I don't mind, I don't mind. We
I'm-
built a parallel road. You know, this road's never being done by us.
I'm,
So there is a parallel road that was replacing it.
Sims, yeah, Sims Avenue, as far as I know, Sims Avenue is supposed to go all the way through.
As long as that parallel road is there and the reason that we originally did the vacation still holds and it works out in court, I have no problem doing it.
I could change my vote to yes if I see that we're going all the way through.
All right.
Right
Can
now.
we verify that secondary road was put through in place of Charity Toll?
Sims Avenue.
Sims? So I see Sims is higher up on that. And then what the status of it is, what do you think is gonna adversely affect? And if it seems to be doable,
Engineering on it?
I will,
it seems like the consensus of the committee is to move ahead with it. So
Harold will check with engineering with your permission, and it's gonna be analyzed the impact of the lawsuit. I don't think it is, but.
yeah, check with that checklist, the gentleman who's requesting it again, make sure that we're getting the complete, full story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one time before, but Tom didn't want to go forward until, Yad Klugman signed off, because they were the ones that objected, and continued to have the
For the
objection.
first time.
And that's why Tom brought it back, once
And
Klugman
if
said.
we feel it's not advantageous for the township to go ahead, then we won't, but I seem to feel that, you know, people are okay with doing it as long as it's not gonna adversely affect it, and that other road has been put through, so we're not just vacating it.
Gotcha, okay.
One of the reasons why it was swapped out was because of the Charity Toll, which is the road that they want to vacate right now. One of the reasons why we vacated it and was because Albert Avenue residents were saying that it's too close to Albert Avenue, so when they come out on Pine Street, then all the Charity Toll traffic is gonna be right on top of them. And they're never gonna.
That did Sims Avenue. When I first
That was
came
one
here,
time, they did part of it, yes.
he did the whole thing himself.
Part of it, right.
For a vacation,
Whatever's
we
done
did
until
that,
now
we
is
did the
probably.
vacation for him. I was back in 15.
Okay.
All right, we got it.
All right, everybody, next is executive session.
All right, do I have a motion to go into executive?
Move.
Second, okay. We will not be going back into open session. If we finish early, we'll go downstairs and say hello.
What are you discussing by
We're
executive?
discussing, where's my,
Contract negotiation.
contract negotiations, anything else?
Come on, give a little
That's
bit
it.
more details.
Contract
I'm
negotiation.
as open as I can, because some secrets are best kept secret.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.